You wake up, grab a coffee, and scroll through your phone. Every one of these actions feels like a choice you made on your own. But beneath that feeling of independence, your autonomy is quietly hijacked thousands of times a day. In psychology, researchers use a framework called the dark triad to understand malevolent behavior. It groups together three specific personality profiles with a primary focus on the trait of Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism involves the strategic deception and exploitation of others to achieve a personal or corporate goal. We see this embodied by figures like Elizabeth Holmes, who used calculated deceit to build a billion-dollar illusion. The study of dark psychology is no longer restricted to clinical psychopaths, dictators, or disgraced executives. These exact manipulative tactics have been democratized.
They are now engineered into our daily interpersonal relationships and built directly into the multi-billion-dollar applications sitting in our pockets. Psychologists measure these malevolent traits in the general population using assessments like the Dirty Dozen scale. The Dirty Dozen is a 12-question survey used to identify levels of narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism in subclinical adult populations. Data shows that everyday people, romantic partners, managers, and salespeople, frequently score high on this scale. They routinely use psychological leverage to get what they want, often without being fully aware of the ethical cost. Persuasive algorithms have now automated these interpersonal tactics, allowing calculated deception to scale across billions of users simultaneously. Consider a classic offline exploit known as the foot-in-the-door technique. A manipulator asks for a tiny, harmless favor, something so small it feels rude to refuse. This works because the human brain seeks behavioral consistency. A tiny concession quickly expands into a massive commitment. This exact psychological exploit translates to the digital world through dark patterns, deceptive interface designs intended to trick users. An app will offer a frictionless, one-click sign-up for a free trial. But once the user is committed, the developer introduces a labyrinthine cancellation process, requiring navigation through hidden menus or external links. Digital designers are weaponizing your natural behavioral inertia. They use the foot-in-the-door principle to bypass your logical financial boundaries and secure recurring payments. Another tactic is emotional anchoring. In human relationships, a manipulator might use love flooding, overwhelming someone with affection, only to suddenly follow it with cold withdrawal. This cycle conditions the victim. Over time, their brain links obedience with a feeling of safety, while any act of defiance is met with intense, manufactured guilt. Look at this mock interface. This psychological cycle is mirrored in the notifications of modern education and fitness applications. When you miss a lesson, a crying mascot appears on your lock screen, warning you about breaking a daily streak. Corporate engagement teams treat these feelings of guilt as key performance indicators, engineering their notifications to exploit user psychology and keep their metrics climbing. Then there is reverse psychology and choice restriction. Manipulators will frequently provide a limited set of false options, distracting you from the single choice they really don't want you to make. E-commerce sites use this to corner user psychology. This interface uses an aggressive, ticking red countdown timer, placed to a misleadingly colored decline button, creating urgency to force a decision. The site applies false pressure while deliberately confusing the consent process. It steers you toward a purchase while maintaining a convincing illusion of personal autonomy. The most effective form of manipulation makes the victim believe they are the ones steering the ship. If both our loved ones and our apps are constantly trying to persuade us, where is the line between a helpful nudge and a dark trap? This diagram reveals the answer. By plotting transparency against intent, we can separate ethical influence from dark psychology. Ethical influence requires mutual benefit. Dark psychology is a zero-sum game, where the manipulator's gain relies entirely on your loss of autonomy. We cannot control every Machiavellian actor we meet, nor can we stop the persuasive algorithms embedded in our environment. But manipulation is inherently fragile. To function effectively, it requires total darkness and your complete ignorance of the mechanics involved. Naming the mechanics of the trick, the foot in the door, the emotional anchor, and the dark pattern, strips these tactics of their covert power.
Awareness allows you to see the architecture of the trap before you step inside.